British engineers have built some of the strongest lorries ever made in human history. These trucks are so big and powerful that they can carry heavy loads across rough roads without stopping. How is that even possible? Well, let's find out. Join us as we take you through the 10 most powerful British trucks ever built, starting with the mighty Scammell Crusader, king of the road in the 1970s. First, Scammell Crusader. Just take a look at this giant metal beast that rolled down the highway, its engine growling like a lion. It is strong, powerful, and unstoppable. This isn't just any truck. It's one of the toughest trucks of the 1970s. Now, why was this truck so special? Let's take a ride back in time. Back in the 1970s, people needed strong trucks to carry very heavy loads, things like military tanks, huge containers, and big factory machines. Regular trucks just couldn't handle it. That's where the Scammell Crusader came in. This truck was like a superhero on wheels. It was made in Britain by a company called Scammell, and it was built to do the toughest jobs without breaking a sweat. Imagine pulling something as heavy as 50 elephants behind you. That's what the Crusader could do. It was used by the British Army to transport tanks, and big companies used it to move goods across countries. If a job was too hard for other trucks, the Crusader was the one to call. Just look at how gigantic this looks. If you saw a Scammell Crusader on the road, you wouldn't forget it. Its long, strong body with a giant square-shaped front made it look like a bulldozer on wheels. And guess what? Unlike most trucks back then, the Crusader had tilt cabs, which meant the whole front of the truck could be lifted up to show the engine. This made it easier for mechanics to fix. Instead of crawling underneath, they could just tilt the cab forward. Let's take a look at the heart of this beast. A truck this powerful needs an engine that can roar. The Scammell Crusader had different engines, but the most famous one was a Rolls-Royce diesel engine. Yes, Rolls-Royce is the same company that makes luxury cars. This engine ensured the truck could pull heavy loads over long distances without slowing down. Even though it was strong, the Crusader was also smooth to drive. Many truck drivers loved it because it made their jobs easier. Driving long hours could be tiring, but sitting in a Crusader felt like sitting in a powerful machine that was built just for them. Like all legends, the Scammell Crusader had its time in the spotlight, but as the years passed, newer trucks came along. By the 1980s, truck companies were making different models with new technology. The Crusader was eventually retired, and Scammell itself stopped making trucks in the early 1990s. Wouldn't it be cool to ride in one? Next is the Anden Foden S100. Imagine a truck so strong that it could pull massive loads across rough roads, up steep hills, and through the harshest weather. A truck that didn't just work hard but kept going no matter what. That truck was the Foden S108, a true road warrior of the 1980s. Back in the 1980s, heavy loads needed powerful trucks, and Foden, a famous British truck company, knew precisely how to build them. The S108 was one of their most substantial models, designed for heavy-duty hauling. It was mainly used for moving big containers, carrying construction materials, and even transporting military equipment. Unlike smaller trucks that struggled with heavy loads, the Foden S108 made it look easy. It had a strong chassis, which is the truck's skeleton, and a powerful engine, which meant it could carry huge amounts of weight without breaking down. Truck drivers loved it, especially because it could handle long distances and rough roads without trouble. Let's take a look at the engines. The Foden S108 was powered by Gardner, Cummins or Perkins diesel engines, depending on the model and customer preference. These engines were built for endurance, offering strong torque and fuel efficiency, making the S108 a trusted workhorse. And for the noise, oh boy, this truck had a deep, rumbling sound that made it clear, "I'm coming through." If you were standing near a running Foden S108, you could feel the ground vibrating under your feet. The Foden S108 also had a tough, no-nonsense look. Its boxy, square-shaped cab with a big front grille made it look like a true powerhouse. Some models had a sleeper cab, which meant drivers could rest inside during long trips. This was important because truckers often spent days on the road and needed a place to sleep. Another cool thing? Tilt cabs. Just like the Scammell Crusader, the S108's front cab could tilt forward to reveal the engine. This made repairs and maintenance easier, so mechanics didn't have to crawl underneath the truck. This truck has also earned its respect. During the 1980s, Foden trucks were famous for their reliability and strength, and the S108 was one of the best. It was often compared to other big trucks from Scania and Volvo, but many drivers preferred Foden because it had a solid build and a powerful pull. Sadly, Foden as a company didn't last forever. In the early 2000s, it was taken over by another truck company, and by 2006, the Foden name disappeared. So, if you ever see a Foden S108 on the road, know that you're looking at a piece of history. Speaking of history, let's take a step back to the 1970s and see what truckers bragged about. Third Leyland Marathon. In the early 1970s, truckers needed something new. They wanted a strong, reliable truck that could travel thousands of miles without constant breakdowns. Leyland, a well-known British truck company, decided to create something special, something that could compete with big European brands like Scania and Volvo. That's how the Leyland Marathon was born in 1973. This truck wasn't just for local deliveries, it was built for long-distance hauling, perfect for truckers who drove across entire countries carrying heavy loads. Whether it was steel, timber, or massive containers, the Marathon could handle it all. Let's look at the power behind this monster. You know, a big truck needs a big heart, and the Marathon had just that. It was powered by a powerful diesel engine, usually a Rolls-Royce or Leyland diesel engine. Some models even had a V8 engine, which gave them extra muscle for tough roads and heavy trailers. This engine wasn't just strong, it was built to last. Many trucks back then had problems overheating or breaking down on long trips, but the Marathon was designed to keep going mile after mile. It could easily pull 40 tons of weight without struggling. One of its best features? The sleeper cab. Many models had a built-in bed behind the driver's seat, so truckers could sleep inside the truck during long trips. This was a game changer because it meant drivers didn't have to stop at hotels. They could just park at a truck stop, climb into bed, and rest for the night. Truckers who drove this masterpiece had a lot to brag about. Next is the 4th AEC Mammoth Major 8. The name Mammoth Major 8 wasn't just for fun, it described the truck perfectly. Mammoth means huge and powerful, while Major shows that it is a top-class machine. The 8 stands for its 8 wheels, which helped it carry much heavier loads than normal trucks. At a time when most trucks had only 4 or 6 wheels, this beast had 4 axles, which are sets of wheels. This gave it extra strength and stability. It also made it perfect for carrying heavy goods like steel, coal, timber, and machinery, things that smaller trucks couldn't handle. Now, a big truck needs a strong engine, and the Mammoth Major 8 had just that. Most models came with an AEC diesel engine, which gave it enough power to pull massive loads over long distances. But it wasn't just strong, it was also reliable. In the 1950s and 1960s, many trucks broke down easily on long trips, but the Mammoth Major 8 kept going, making it a favorite among truck drivers and big Guyansport companies. It also had a huge front grille for cooling the engine, a tall and boxy cab, and a strong steel frame that could handle rough roads. Some versions had a flatbed at the back, while others were fitted with tipper bodies for carrying things like coal and sand. One of its coolest features was the 8-wheel drive system. While not all versions had the power to every wheel, the extra tires gave it better grip and balance, which made it perfect for carrying heavy loads on uneven roads and steep hills. Because of its strength and reliability, many British companies kept using these trucks for decades. Even when newer trucks came along, the Mammoth Major 8 was still respected and remembered as one of the toughest trucks ever built. However, by the late 1960s and early 1970s, newer truck designs with better technology sadly started replacing the Mammoth Major 8. This next truck design not only screams comfort, power, and durability, it makes life easier for truckers who spend long hours on the road. This was the ERFE CX525, one of Britain's finest trucks from the 1990s and early 2000s. Words have it that this truck was built for the future. By the 1990s, truck companies needed to create stronger, more efficient trucks that could compete with European giants like Volvo, Scania, and Mercedes-Benz. ERF, a famous British truck manufacturer, designed the ECX series, and the ECX 525 was one of the most powerful models in the lineup. It was built for long-distance hauling, capable of carrying huge loads across highways and international routes. Whether it was transporting containers, fuel, or construction materials, the ECX 525 could handle it all. The 525 in its name wasn't just a random number. It stood for 525 horsepower, which made this truck a true powerhouse. It was fitted with a Cummins diesel engine, one of the best in the industry, giving it the strength to pull heavy trailers without struggling. This engine wasn't just powerful, it was also fuel efficient, which was important because fuel costs were rising in the 1990s. Truck companies needed vehicles that could go long distances without burning too much fuel, and the ECX 525 delivered exactly that. Now, older trucks were tough, but they weren't always comfortable for drivers. Many truckers spent days or even weeks on the road, so ERF designed the ECX 525 with driver comfort in mind. The truck was spacious, with a high roof so drivers could move around easily. It also had a proper sleeper area, which means drivers could sleep comfortably inside the truck instead of finding a hotel. This was the icing on the cake for the truckers. Another cool feature is the tilt cab design, which allows mechanics to lift the front of the truck to access the engine quickly. This makes maintenance and repairs much easier. Despite being a great truck, the ECX 525 came at a time when ERF was struggling. In the late 1990s, the company was bought by MAN, a German truck manufacturer. By the early 2000s, MAN decided to stop producing ERF trucks, and the ERF name eventually painfully disappeared. This next truck is much like the EVX 525, especially since it offers space for truckers to sleep in. 6th Atkinson Borderer. Back in the 1960s, Britain needed stronger, more reliable trucks to carry heavy loads across the country. Roads weren't as smooth as it is today, and trucks had to be tough to survive. Atkinson, a British truck company, designed the Borderer to handle long-distance hauling, construction work, and even military transport. It was mainly used to carry steel, timber, and other heavy goods, and it quickly earned a reputation for being one of the toughest trucks on the road. If you saw an Atkinson Borderer back then, you knew it was built to do serious work. A truck is only as good as its engine, and the Atkinson Borderer had some of the best. It was usually fitted with a Gardner diesel engine, known for its strength, reliability, and fuel efficiency. Some models also had Cummins or Rolls-Royce engines, giving them even more power. Also, the Atkinson Borderer's distinctive design made it stand out. It had a big, square front grille with the famous Atkinson A logo in the center. The cab sat high above the road. This gave drivers a clear view of everything ahead. Some models also had a sleeper cab. By the late 1970s, the Atkinson Borderer was being replaced by newer truck models. This is because Atkinson merged with other companies, and eventually the brand disappeared. If you love the sights and features of these trucks, drop a thumbs up in the comments below. And don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button for more awesome content. Now, let's move on to the Sivender Foden Alpha Fire 2000. It all started in the late 1990s and early 2000s. The trucking industry was changing, and European brands like Scania, Volvo, and DAF were dominating the market. So British truck manufacturers had to step up their game. Foden, a brand with over 150 years of history, introduced the Alpha series, and the Alpha 4000 was one of its most powerful models. It was built for tough, long-distance jobs, perfect for pulling huge trailers, construction materials, and industrial equipment across the UK and beyond. Whether on highways or rough roads, the Alpha 4000 was designed to handle it all. The Foden Alpha 4000 was fitted with a Cummins diesel engine, known for its strength, durability, and fuel efficiency. Some models had over 400 horsepower, which made them strong enough to pull massive loads without slowing down. These engines were not just powerful, they were also designed to last. Truckers loved them because they didn't break down easily, and maintenance was simple. The Alpha 4000 was built to keep going mile after mile, making it a favorite for long-haul drivers. Unlike older Foden trucks, which had a boxy, old-school look, the Alfa 4000 had a sleek, aerodynamic design. The cab was designed with the driver in mind. Like other trucks, it had a comfortable and spacious cabin with plenty of room to move. And we are not surprised there is a sleeper cab option, so drivers can rest inside the truck during long journeys. Even though the Foden Alfa 4000 was a fantastic truck, it came at a time when the Foden brand was struggling. In 1980, the company was bought by the American company PACCAR, which also owned DAF and Kenworth. By the early 2000s, PACCAR decided to focus on DAF trucks and stopped making Foden trucks altogether. In 2006, the Foden brand was officially shut down, making the Alfa 4000 one of the last Foden trucks ever built. It marked the end of a long history of British truck making. Moving on, we have the 8. Scamell Commander. Built for war zones, deserts and muddy terrains, the Scamell Commander was one of Britain's most powerful military trucks. By the late 1970s, the British Army needed a transport truck strong enough to tow the massive Challenger 1 tank. Ordinary trucks couldn't handle such weight, so they turned to Scamell, a company known for tough and reliable vehicles. In 1983, the Commander was introduced, built to tow up to 65 tons. Instead of carrying cargo, it transported tanks, armored vehicles, and heavy military equipment across extreme landscapes. At its heart was a Perkins 3512 diesel engine pumping out 625 horsepower, giving it the strength to pull massive loads over steep hills, deserts, and rivers. Its 4-axle, 8-wheel design and advanced suspension system ensured smooth rides even on the roughest terrain. It also had a powerful winch that helped load and recover broken-down vehicles. The Commander proved its worth in the 1991 Gulf War, transporting tanks through Kuwait and Iraq. Despite Scamell shutting down in 1988, these trucks remained in service well into the 2000s. Today, a few still survive in museums and private collections, a lasting proof of their legendary strength. Speaking of trucks that were militarily powerful, this next truck might just be your favorite. 9. Bedford TM 6x6. By the 1970s, the British Army needed a stronger all-terrain truck to transport supplies, fuel, and equipment across battlefields. Bedford, a leading truck manufacturer, developed the TM 6x6. This is a rugged, 6-wheeled vehicle designed for extreme conditions. Unlike regular trucks, which struggled on rough terrain, the TM 6x6's 3 axles and 6 powered wheels provided superior grip and stability. It could drive through deserts, forests, mountains, and deep mud without getting stuck. The Army used it to carry fuel tanks, ammunition, and troops, with some versions fitted with cranes or tankers for refueling operations. It was powered by a Bedford 8.2-litre diesel or Rolls-Royce engine. The TM 6x6 wasn't built for speed, but for strength and reliability. This megatruck could handle extreme heat, freezing cold, and rough roads, making it a top choice for military commanders. Now, unlike most military trucks, it had a roomy cab with space for 2 or 3 soldiers, offering a more comfortable ride. It played a key role in real conflicts, including the Falklands War, 1982, and the Gulf War, 1991, proving itself as one of the British Army's most reliable transport vehicles. Moving on to the last truck on our list. Gishanti Guy Big J 4T. This is a truck built with both power and durability, but from a company that didn't survive to see the future of the industry. That truck was the Guy Big J4T, one of the last great models from Guy Motors, a British truck manufacturer that tried to fight against giants like Foden, ERF, and Leyland. By the 1960s, Guy Motors, a company known for making buses and lorries, was struggling to survive. They needed a truck that could compete with the best in the business. So, they introduced the Big J series, with the Big J 4T being one of the strongest models. The 4T in its name meant 4 axles, making it perfect for heavy-duty hauling. This truck was designed for long-haul transport, carrying construction materials, fuel, and industrial goods across Britain and beyond. To stay competitive, Guy fitted the Big J4T with strong diesel engines from Cummins, Gardner, or Rolls-Royce. These engines were known for being fuel-efficient and long-lasting, making the truck a good choice for companies looking to save money on fuel and maintenance. Despite its strength, the big J4T wasn't the smoothest truck to drive. Some drivers found its gearbox tricky, and the cab design was not as comfortable as other brands, but it was still a workhorse, built for endurance rather than luxury. The big J4T had a modern look for its time. Unlike older, boxy trucks, it had a sleek, curved cab that made it stand out on the road. One of its best features was the tilt cab, which allowed mechanics to lift the entire cab forward to access the engine. Now, looking back, it seems almost every truck had this feature, don't you think so? Even though the big J4T was a strong and capable truck, Guy Motors was still struggling financially. In 1961, Jaguar took over Guy Motors, but it wasn't enough to save the company. By 1968, British Leyland absorbed Guy Motors, and soon after, the Guy name disappeared completely. And that's a wrap. There you have it. 10 most powerful British lorries ever built.